At this point, I think it's pretty safe to say I was right in my first lore video about Piero playing as black. Color me surprised, but I might even have been right when I said Fontaine used to be Celestia. If you've got no idea what I'm talking about, sit tight, like, and subscribe because I'll be giving the TLDR in a bit, along with what I think it means for Natlan. But first, the 4.6 recap. I want to get the Arlecchino story quest out of the way first because, and I never thought I'd need to do this for the lore videos, you have been lied to. This cinematic did not spoil the entire story. It spoiled a subplot that is still bad, but it is not the entire story. That should have been obvious because this girl equals this girl does not also equal we fight Arlecchino. But critical thinking doesn't exist on the internet, so that lie was believed and spread by a lot of people. So, if you didn't play through the quest because you thought there was no point because you were told it was spoiled, and don't want it to actually be spoiled, pause the video, play it, and come back when you're done. Are we good? Then let's go. The traveler likes hearing the way Paimon says poisson, so they decide to stop by and they find Lenny. Lenny starts to tell us why the House of the Hearth has relocated to Poisson for the time being when we're jump scared by Arlecchino. She tells us there's been a phantom roaming about causing mayhem, so she's going to put on her Bill Murray pants and exercise the little bugger. Lenny then takes us around and introduces us to the family. There's a little girl that will grow up to be a bartender, and the man that you call her a mixologist instead, a dude that's not as sneaky as he thinks he is, and a boy who did unspeakable things to animals just to see how it made him feel. But he was abandoned by his parents when they found out, and I guess that means we're supposed to feel sorry for him. I don't know, kid's messed up. All he wants for Christmas is to see an execution. There's also these two, filial and not filial. They've started to realize they're in a cult. The people we just met are Looney Tunes, and that they'd be happier mindlessly wasting away engrossed in the pop culture of the time. Then we find Fremine trying to smuggle snacks to the previously mentioned little bugger that Arlecchino is trying to go Father Marin on, and who, yes, was spoiled in Ufotable animation, but the game doesn't try all that hard to hide who she is. If you know anything about Arlecchino, it's probably that she 86'd her former mother of the House of the Hearth, and that the little bugger is talking about her, not Arlecchino. Anyway, turns out the reason filial and not filial realize they're in a cult is because the little bugger has been going around telling them about the experiments and torture that used to happen in the house. And they don't find anything weird at all about her referring to the head of the house as mother, when Arlecchino has gone so far out of her way to make sure everyone knows her as father. This is a problem because Arlecchino is stone cold and will absolutely make anyone who thinks about betraying her bite the curb. Lenny tells us to stall Arlecchino while he, Fremine, and Lynette investigate because playable characters aren't allowed to be dumb, and he knows something's not right. You might be wondering where Lynette came from, and I think she'd be fine with you wondering that, so I won't spoil her fun. We go to Arlecchino, but the traveler doesn't talk, and she doesn't find Paimon cute. So Lenny really took an L by assigning us this job. Luckily, Child is there to provoke Arlecchino into talking, and she gladly takes the opportunity to tell us what she wants us to know. Namely, that she unsubscribed the former knave from life, she's not Fontainian, and that she only helped during the crisis to protect the House of the Hearth. Fast forward to the next day, and Arlecchino lets us know that she's onto us. She knows all about the little bugger and the chaos she's caused. She's planning to make everyone pay with their lives. But if we come with her to see Nouvellette, and the problem is solved by the time we get back, she won't have any evidence to use to hold them accountable. So, we go see Nouvellette, she convinces him to allow anyone that wants to leave the house to stay in Fontaine, using water metaphors to avoid giving that part away, and offers to leave Fontaine in return, which she was planning to do anyway. We leave, run into a dude we saw on a list of people that have been executed and think, that's weird. Arlecchino offers to give the crew a bit more time, but in return, we have to promise to do what's best for the House of the Hearth when the time comes. We go to the ruins of the old House of the Hearth, and Arlecchino tells us the little bugger was the former knave's actual daughter, and that the former knave tortured her to set an example for the kids of what happens when they mess up. Years and years later, little bugger is a medium bugger, and CBA to deal with her crazy mom anymore, so she tells Arlecchino to cancel any future updates to her life subscription. Unlike in the animation, Arlo waits an entire year before taking on the former knave, retiring her from life and taking over the House of the Hearth in her stead. Once she finishes her trauma dump, the crew show up and Arla's like, bet, and gets ready to send the traitors to the Pearly Gates. Little Dexter Morgan here is way too excited about it. Lenny and the crew decide to step to her because they're down for a lot of shenanigans, but fratricide is where they draw the line. We flash back to the promise we made to Arlecchino and decide to join them in their fight. The fight's awesome if you pay attention. Best animations we've seen outside of pre-rendered cutscenes. Fremine and Lynette insult Arlecchino by attacking her with the back of their blades, and she takes it personally. She traps all of us, but we break free and get in her way right before she turns filial and not filial into hashtags. So, Arlecchino decides to show us 1% of her power by trapping us on the side of Nihility that still has color, just long enough for us to regret our life decisions before telling us we're still nowhere close to being strong enough to beat her. Then we get the biggest cop-out ever put to screen by Arla revealing that the quote-unquote method of execution she chose was for them to drink a potion somehow made from her flames that would burn away their memories, and some BS about how to Arlecchino losing your memories is the same as losing your life. Everyone hobbles away and we're left with the little bugger to tell her all about the adventures we've had around to that. Yeah, let's just expose every secret we have in front of the head of the Fatui's intelligence department. Seems like a great idea. We talk for so long that the sun comes up and the little bugger finally gets to see what the outside world is like, and for her and Arlecchino to finally get the chance to say goodbye to one another. The end. For those of you that are curious, Paimon speaks a total of 141 times, but only re-explains something 3 times. The first occasion not happening until half an hour into the quest. 58.5% of the quest is spent with Arlecchino, which is more than the time spent with Eula in her quest. If you think I'm making these numbers up, you have not been watching me very long, so subscribe. Check my community post, everything and more is included in the link document. Now, back to what I brought up at the start of the video. Piero is playing as Black. What does that mean? Well, in the Winter's Night Lazo trailer, they feature a board state from a very famous series of chess games between Garry Kasparov and the supercomputer Deep Blue. The board state in the teaser was Game 1, where Kasparov played as Black and lost. Previous lore theorists assumed that Game 2 was Sumeru, but that poses a few problems. The biggest of which being that Game 2 was a victory for Kasparov, but according to Nahida, the result at the end of Sumeru was a fair trade. The Fatui didn't win in Sumeru. If you want to know more about this, check out this video. However, if we assume Piero is only playing as Black, Sumeru would be Game 3, which resulted in a draw, which is what happened. Using the same line of reasoning, Fontaine would be Game 5, which results in the only loss Deep Blue ever had against Kasparov as White. And what just happened? We lost. Hands down, no contest to Arlecchino. And that wasn't even the only loss in Fontaine. The Archon is gone. Whether you think Piero's game represents the Fatui versus the Traveler, or the Fatui versus Celestia, it's a loss either way. The only dub in Fontaine was that the people didn't dissolve during the prophecy, which, the prophecy did happen, the people just didn't dissolve. And also, as Arlecchino tells us in the quest, the Fatui didn't want it to happen anyways. They need the House of the Hearth for Project Stuja. So what does this mean for Natlan? Well, if Piero is playing as Black, we would look on to Game 2 in the second set of games between Kasparov and Deep Blue. And this game was an all-out war, kind of befitting the nation of, war. This game saw Deep Blue and Kasparov fighting for the center and not allowing each other to develop their pieces. Anytime either one would go on the offensive, the other would successfully kick the other away. It was so cutthroat that Kasparov accused the Deep Blue team of cheating by taking advice from a grandmaster instead of using the moves chosen by the computer. Ultimately, Kasparov would be so frustrated that he would resign in a position that could have forced the perpetual check. There are 2 scenarios for a perpetual check: a draw from making 50 moves without capturing a piece or moving a pawn, or a draw by repeating the same move 3 times, meaning Kasparov took a loss on a game that would have resulted in no winner. So, given what we know about this game, we can make some educated guesses about what might happen in Natlan. First, I think we'll see a consolidation of forces. Part 1 will see the Traveler recruiting allies for the fight to come. I think this will also serve as a bit of a training arc. Eastern media often draws inspiration from Journey to the West, and Sun Wukong was kind of a self-indulging jerk until he got a reality check from the Buddha. Remember how the Traveler said, "I want answers," instead of, "Oh no, Farina's gonna get blasted by the Oratrice, we have to save her." Yeah, well, now that they've been humbled, it's their opportunity to set out on their own path to becoming the fighting Buddha. Part 2 will be the fight for the center, with neither side giving an advantage to the other. Part 3 will be when the Traveler's company makes their move and catches the other side off guard. This is the point where Kasparov accuses the Deep Blue team of cheating. So, my guess is that the Traveler will receive aid from a party that chose, or was not allowed, to take sides. Finally, a gambit from the Traveler that makes it appear as though their advantage is larger than what it actually is, resulting in the payoff of the Fatui withdrawing. And just a side note, I'd love for there to be an actual accusation of cheating as an homage to the anime trope where the villain is like, "You were so weak before, you couldn't have possibly gotten this powerful." It's like when they play the intro during the last episode, that stuff gets me every time. Now, for Fontaine being Celestia. This book says Remus arrived on the Fortuna. Boethius and Cassiodor in the new story quest for the new region, which, by the way, is not this area that I'm convinced they didn't even mean to enable for 4.6, but I'll touch on that in a bit, refer to Celestia as Fortuna. Pretty easy to connect those dots. However, we're also told in the new artifact set that Remus arrived from Sumeru, so why the contradiction? Well, we're also told that Scylla, the real villain in Remuria, at least according to the quest, led Remus to a silver tree. Unfortunately, yeah, it does look like we're dealing with some Iriminsul shenanigans here. Stupid tree. Now I can't believe anything Scylla, Cassiodor, or Boethius tell us. Nor can we believe this book. The only things that don't reset when Iriminsul hits the retcon button are artifacts and weapons. So that's what we've got to go with. So what does the new artifact set tell us? Well, it says Remus and Sibyllus turned the silver tree into a golden ship to challenge the authority, and ahem, or perhaps it was a dream. For after that, dreams unnumbered will yet be born of the ruins of fantasy. As the people say, the ocean where tears converge shall never dry, but shall rise to the sky and fall as rain once more. In the end, all dreams shall merge into one, bringing ultimate salvation to all the people of the world. Great. So the artifacts are now telling us they aren't reliable. I hate this stupid tree. I hate it so much. Iriminsul is the Fortuna. Celestia is Fortuna. Oh wait, never mind. They're all just dreams melding into one, which, yeah, kind of already figured that out. But the artifact lore and the weapon lore have been the only means of figuring out what happened in each of those dreams before they melded, and then now you're just like, it doesn't really matter. They're just dreams. So yeah, because of all that, I think this area with nothing but 5 chests is meant for an upcoming quest involving Iriminsul that really has no reason to be in 4.6 unless they plan to surprise us with the second half update in a few days. I'd also guess it involved Nahida, if for no other reason than because it's been a while since she's shown up. Anyway, Project Stuja, it's Nesnai's plan to recreate the previous 3 wars to bring back the old world. What? You want me to explain? Then subscribe, I'll get to it eventually. Bye!